All right, away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, go visit our friends at Galactic Fried Chicken, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get to the app, and they will get you set up. They will deliver pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Bring the Galactic goodness right to your front door, or get down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday. Lunch and dinner. They open at 11:30, and they will get you taken care of with the Galactic goodness. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off of your order. Boom. Look at that. Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
It's been a while.
Well, not since I've seen you. It's been like
no, but it's been a little bit.
3 hours.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since we've had you
true.
live on the network. Steven says his sink is empty. Lucky him.
Mine's not. I want people to know, the real heads who know about me doing dishes, that I have put it on hold for the Nightcap. So
that is wonderful of you. Aaron has he's had an unfortunate weekend. They lost some power. They lost internet. They have been on the struggle bus. He did, I believe, he got his internet back, but it wasn't.
You got proof of life, right?
Proof of life. He is alive. He was like, we can go at 8, but there's a good chance as soon as we go live, my feed's not going to work, and it's just going to be you talking to the masses. And I said, well, Justin already agreed to come on, so we'll stick with that. And Aaron, do what you got to do to get your setup good to go for tomorrow and the BBPs, so that when Brent asks him his thoughts on Senior Day, he'll have fresh and new thoughts on Senior Day that we did not discuss tonight. Instead, the regular season has come to a close. The Cincinnati Bearcats finish at 20-11. It was a season of ups and downs, a lot of what ifs. Some of that we'll get to as we go on here. But look, the story of the day today, clearly Senior Day, a legendary performance by David DeJulius, a late surge that took him from a good game to a great game. He finishes with a career-high 30, caps it off with a big 3. West calls timeout. DeJulius maybe starts a new tradition as he walks over and kisses the sea paw. That's a Michigan State thing. Yeah, that's a tradition at Michigan State. Dave, being from Michigan, I'm sure is well aware of where that came from. I think the fans absolutely loved it. He got a great ovation before the game. He got another rousing ovation after the game. Just what a performance. And Chris here, I think we're going to pump the brakes a little, Chris, but he says TDJ performance ranks as one of the best in Fifth Third, maybe ever. It was outstanding. There have been some legendary performances in Fifth Third Arena. Kenya Martin comes to mind.
Can we say maybe post Reno one of the best?
Post Reno, it's probably right up there, right?
The Memphis game where Trey had 25 and 19 and they came
that was
overtime. That one sticks out.
That whole Trey Scott, like, I've lost my mind the final month of my senior season goes down as some of the most, like, so if you don't know, Justin sits directly one seat in the row behind me in the media section. And that entire Trey Scott run, like, we were just staring at each other for like 3 weeks going, what is happening? This guy's getting 20 and 20. It feels like there's never been. Kenyon didn't do anything like it. It was insane. Pre-renovation, the SK Titus Rubles Senior Day, where Titus went out of his mind and scored like 26 points when that was like a 3-game run for him. And I think SK had 30 in that. Like that was that game was up in the 90s as well, 80s, 90s as well. That was a great one. But man, kudos to David DeJulius, and what a way to put a cap on his Bearcat career.
Yeah, I mean, like
his fifth third career. He's still got a couple games.
Obviously, no shade at all to Kalua Zekpe and Rob Fennessy, but like today was about Dave. He was the guy who had played there multiple years, and he was he's been the leader on the team this year, and it was great that he scored 30. It was great that he got the moment where Wes calls the timeout, but just the whole way it goes down where it's a blowout win. He hits that 3. It's like a perfect time, a big enough lead where Wes can kind of, call timeout and give him his moment, and the crowd responded accordingly. It's tough to script things like that, let alone have it come off naturally. And so it's for a guy who's been through a lot here and been a very important Bearcat the past 3 years, I thought it was really cool to see him have that moment.
I don't know that anybody's been on a bigger roller coaster ride as a Bearcat. Honestly, like that first year was, we all know, well, we know more than most, but it was a lot of bumps on the roads. Like I would not have blinked had we found out that offseason that David DeJulius was going to go somewhere else. I would not have blinked. There were rumors even after that season that he was just maybe done with basketball.
Yeah.
And that he was going to get on with life and just, maybe the life of a basketball player wasn't for him. And he stuck it out, and he could have, called it quits last year, and he came back for this season. Clearly it wasn't the season anybody, has wanted yet from a win-loss or, being on the bubble or all the loftier goals. But that guy endeared himself to the fan base about as much as anyone I can remember, in terms of, he wasn't the best player on great teams. Probably wasn't the best player on this team.
I mean, he probably
might be the most important.
Was the most consistent probably this year, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But it's just really cool to see him kind of get that moment, because I do. Wes has mentioned this a couple times, and it's not something I think Dave likes to talk about, but that guy's been out in the community. Like he has embraced Cincinnati and all of the things that Cincinnati has meant to him without doing it very publicly, and has just been a great ambassador for the program.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Wes said it after the game. He wasn't just a guy who came in and played hard and had good games. Like he embraced all of it. He embraced the program, the fan base, the city itself. And that's what fans care about, right? Like they want the school that you attend to be as important to you as it is to them. And let's be honest, for a lot of people, I don't think it ever quite gets there, especially if you're not a 4-year player or if you have a coaching change or something like that. It's tough to maybe have the same emotional connection to the actual place. But I don't think that's the case for David. I think he's totally embraced the university, the program. The thing that sticks out to me is, considering, like you said, he wasn't great teams, even though he was an important player on them, he never seemed to be like, I'm just going to get mine. Like, especially last year, he could have been like, I'm just going to try and score 30 and shoot 25 times every night. And sometimes they actually needed him to do that.
Yeah.
But the thing he's always done is, what can I do to help the team? Well, Wes has talked about this, that, all right, if I need to be more of a vocal leader, I'll do that. If I need to be more of a facilitator, which we've seen during conference play this year.
If I need to get 5 assists a game for 16 straight games, average almost 8 assists a game through the end of the season.
And it's easier to do that when you're on a good team and you're going to the tournament and stuff like that. It's, when you're that talented of a player and the team's not great, it's a lot easier to just say, I'm going to use this opportunity to, advance myself and get mine. And, he never did that. And I think you just, like you said, you add that to all the things that he did to endear himself to this city and the fan base.
A lot of Deontay Vaughn mentions when it comes to David DeJulius. I love Deontay Vaughn, a big Deontay Vaughn guy. What he did on those first 4 teams under Mick Cronin to lift this program from the ashes, and it was always a shame that he missed it by 1 year. getting into the NCAA tournament. I think Dave was a better player. Like Dave was better with the ball in his hands. He became a very good defender, like a really, really good defender, especially towards the middle of this season when it became clear, like, this team's defense stinks. And somebody's got to step up on the perimeter to make it tough on guys. And it wasn't perfect. Like, there were still some of these guys at the top of the AAC that put, 20, 25, whatever on this defense. But he was willing to step up into that role, willing to step up and be the facilitator like you talked about. The thing that impressed me is a lot of guys, when you see that, and he had one slump towards the middle of the season as I think he was readjusting, but he finished strong. Like, he took on everything that Wes could throw on his shoulders and just kind of said, all right, like, this is my team. If that's what this team needs, I'm going to do it. Like, if I was picking in an open gym between Dave and Deontay, I'd pick Dave, I think. And that's not a shot at Deontay by any stretch of the imagination, because I have immense respect for what he did, and he's a top 5 scorer, I think, still in the history of the program. But, man, Dave just did so much.
And you would remember better than me, but Deontay's pretty consistent in terms of playing and being available and not being injured, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing with Dave is, like, he had that opt-out, week or two his first year right before the conference tournament, which that obviously wasn't injury related. But, like, I don't remember him, missing a game, missing a week with a twisted ankle. I mean, maybe he did at some point, but it felt like you go back through and look at his game log and it's 30 minutes, however many games they had out there. And, not all of that is like a person's control. Part of that's just, he was fortunate with injury luck. But the fact that, like, during that time he was having to battle through some stuff. And
okay, so 2020, 2021, his first year here, he played in 19 games, started 16. They played, 22 games that season before COVID hit? No,
that was the COVID year.
Yeah. But I'm saying, how many games did they play before COVID hit?
I can pull up KenPom. I thought they were 18 or no, I don't know.
It was pretty close outside of his opt-out.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember him missing any. Here, maybe not. I had KenPom pulled up. But.
And then
they were 12 and 11 in 2021.
So 23, he played in 19. Games. So he missed 4. He played in all 33 last year. And then 30 so far this year. So he's missed 1. Maybe that doesn't include today.
So they probably didn't update for today.
Yeah. So, I mean.
So he missed he didn't miss any for injury then, because I think he probably did miss 3 or 4 due to the opt-out.
82 games as a Bearcat so far. That's a lot of games played for a guy that was only here 3 years. And
one of them was a shortened schedule.
Yeah. Like, he could have added another 10 games, 10, 12 games, if So, I just getting to know him, and Wes talked about this today. I thought it was great that Wes talked about this, because I think it adds some context to how we have talked about Dave. It's a complex kid. Like, he's a super smart kid, and he's deep. He's not. I know one scouting guy at the time that hated him because he just thought he was weird. When you're dealing with 17-year-old basketball players, the introspective kid that, like, has a grasp on things is the weird kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's got a good outlook on life, or, like, at least has a vision of, like, what life is about outside of just dribbling and shooting a basketball. That's the weird kid. And as I got to know him, I'm like, no, I get it. And Wes said it made him a better coach, which I understand, because how many guys, Wes mentioned this today, a couple weeks ago. He was just out in the morning he was at a coffee shop hanging out with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I only know of one that I can think of in my time doing this that wouldn't have surprised me, that like a coach had just met him at a coffee shop.
Basketball?
Oh, yeah.
Scholarship?
Yep.
Okay. Then yeah, that would narrow it down quite a bit. I mean, I'm sure if I sat and thought about it, but no one jumps to mind immediately.
He came back for a little while. Come on, easy.
Came back for a little while?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, DeMar?
No, but you're on the right path.
Oh.
Kyle.
Yeah. It would have been like an artisanal tea house or something.
Right. Like you might not have been having coffee, but like you're at a froofy coffee shop, meeting with Kyle. Like that's, Dave,
and Kyle was different too, right?
Right. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Dave isn't your typical athlete jock. No.
Mm-mm. He's not a typical college kid.
No.
Like
He's
the
like
stuff.
A 40-year-old trapped in a 22-year-old's body.
He is like, I think a lot of times you talk about like, all right, he can be in the locker room with the guys. He can sit at a coffee shop with Wes Miller. He can sit down with you or I and do an interview. I know he's been at like donor events and interacting with people. He goes to elementary schools and talks to kids. Like sometimes
he donated all of his NIL money to buy books for underprivileged students.
Sometimes that like social chameleon stuff people can read it as fake, but we've seen this with like they talk about this with people like Joe Burrow or different coaches. Like a lot of times that's a level of maturity, right? That you can kind of adapt to whatever situation you're in and still be comfortable and still be yourself. And so I think that's you hear the way Wes talked about him, but then you also hear the way Landers talked about him. We've heard the way his other teammates have talked about him this season, and it just shows that he's definitely a different, unique person, but it's clear how much people respect and like him.
I got a text from him a couple weeks back, and Dave and I, we've been very cordial, but like you and I, we're not casually just texting with these guys. Like,
right.
It's not the relationship, how it's built. And just out of nowhere, I got a text from Dave one day that was just checking on Kelly and checking on me. And like, it was more than just your standard, like, hope your wife's okay. It's like, hey man, like, I love seeing you around. You bring a different light to the program. Like, I know these are hard times. We miss seeing you every day. I hope your wife's okay. And I hope you're like taking care of yourself. Like, it was a lot different than a standard, like, hey man, thinking of you. Like it was long. Like it was probably should have been like 3 bubbles, but I've got an Android, so it was all in one bubble.
Well, and the other thing. Good.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'll say the other. I mean, that's. I think that says a lot about him. And the other thing, maybe more on like the sports side is when it was a rough game, rough loss, Dave always did press after the game.
Yep.
And like that, there are not a lot of guys at any institution program.
They don't want to do it.
Yeah, who are willing to come out either after they have a bad game or the team plays terrible. Like a lot, we've been in those situations where it's like, hey, no players today, or guys come out and give you terrible one-word answers. And like, I think that goes to the maturity the same way that the message he sent you. I think that just says a lot about how mature he is.
Yeah, and it wasn't like nothing about it felt like forced. It felt like genuine, like he was just middle of a Tuesday thinking about like, me not being around. Like there's a lot of stuff I could get to that I won't, that this team has gone out of their way to just like make sure that like I know and that Kelly knows, hey, like we're thinking of you guys. Some of that's Wes. I think some of it is also Dave. That, he's that kind of kid. He's that compassionate, like not just me play ball.
Right.
Me go gym, me play ball. Like he's a deep kid. He's a kid that thinks a lot and thinks a lot about things that, hell, probably you and I don't think about.
Sure.
Child, we're making magic here. So can you keep it down? Yes. Okay. Thanks. Kelsey. Anyhow, so it felt really good to see him get that day. Like that really felt like, yeah, it was Rob's day and it was Kalu's day. But even from the ceremony, you were out there, like the crowd's reaction to Dave was different as it should have been. It felt like that was Dave's day. And for a while, it felt like it was Landers' birthday.
Right.
And it felt like Landers was going to he hits his first 4 threes. He's doing the kisses. Like Landers is going to have himself a birthday that overshadows Dave's day. And at the end, Dave hit the gas one more time. Like, yeah, you're at 24, I'm at 22, but I got 8 more in me.
Well, that was the other thing. Like he's also smart enough to realize, all right, he probably knows his career high is 26. He certainly knew when he took that step back 3 that he had a chance to get 30. Like, I don't consider that selfish, but it was like he's smart enough to realize, all right, I can really send myself off well here. And he said that to me, this week, the interview I had with him, where he's like, it's a lot of right now about how do you want to be remembered. I guarantee you he was thinking that over the once the game was in hand, I'm sure he was thinking like, all right, what can I do to send myself out?
Well, he's smart enough to know, like, in my time here, we didn't reach the lofty goals of this program. But I do have a chance to, like, make myself remembered for a long time in this city. Like, David DeJulius, that name is going to resonate with UC fans forever because he was the one constant through the last 3 years. Like, there was a lot of turmoil, and you kept seeing Dave be the one that was like front and center. Like you talked about, like being at press conferences or being the guy that was front and center, like never back down from any of that. So
yeah, I mean, you would hope that a few years from now, it'll be similar to Vaughn, right? That the program will get it figured back out and turn back around, and people will look back and, have a lot of appreciation for a guy like David who was here when it wasn't going good, but kind of helped get the program to the point where it could be.
So 30 points for him, and he wasn't out there chucking by any stretch of the imagination.
Got
11 of 18, 6 of 8 from the line. He only took 4 threes, made 2 of them, the last one being the memorable one. 6 assists. He should have had another one. He had 2 just ridiculous passes. The one that Kalu got fouled on,
right.
And then he had the pass in the open court for a bucket that was just nasty as well. Like
the one that Landers missed that Kalu followed, or JD followed somebody.
Yeah. So that would have been another. He probably should have had 8 or 9 assists. But I just really happy for him because, I appreciate guys that it means a lot. So look, man, you've been doing this. You're at that point. You're crossing. Is this year 6 you're starting or year 5?
Yeah, this is 5th basketball season, so or 5th and a half, yeah. Going into 6.
You're starting to be around enough now where you've seen a lot of guys just go through the motions. Like they're here, like they're doing what's asked of them. They're fulfilling all of their requirements. They're good students. They're good people, but it doesn't really mean anything. Dave, you genuinely felt like it like building a legacy in Cincinnati meant something to him. Because I also think he's smart enough to realize if I build a legacy in this town, this can be my town.
Yeah.
Professionally, in whatever avenue. I remember there are a couple older football players and older basketball players, and we're talking guys in their 50s now, late 40s, 50s, maybe even a little bit older, that have built a legacy in this town, be it in business or whatever. I would see Dave picking their brains. Like I remember at one of those, dreaded football camps in the summer where it's, 105 degrees out. And Dave, one of the guys that was a former football player, he's from Detroit and he's built up a business legacy here in Cincinnati. And Dave was just there, like just soaking up any knowledge he could get from him. No, you know what? Actually, that might have been after a captain's breakfast. And, just like, oh. And Dave's like, no, he's from Detroit. He's done what I want to do here. Like, I'm here picking his brain. And, like, That's not a college kid thing to do, right? Like, so.
No, the other thing to think about is, who are a lot of times the big important boosters and donors for a program. A lot of them are likely successful business people in town. If at some point Dave decides, hey, I want to, make a home in Cincinnati or spend some time here, I bet he knows a lot of people who, would be able and willing to hire him or find something for him to do based on the way.
And that's part of building your legacy in the town. Yeah. Like building a legacy within the people that care about UC basketball. They watch how David DeJulius has carried himself for 3 years, and they say, you know what? I want that guy to not just work for me, but like be a part of my company. Mm-hmm. Be, somebody that I fast track, if you will, or however you want to put it. Yeah. Not just like, hey, you played for UC, so here's an entry-level job.
Right.
So yeah, really, really happy for Dave and the way that he got to go out tonight. The game itself, when you get 9 of 13 from 3 in the first half, you set yourself up for a pretty good day. But the thing that impressed me most is second half, SMU changed what they were doing defensively. They gave Cincinnati a lot of different looks. Those looks were designed to take away Cincinnati hitting step-in rhythm threes. I did think, and Wes talked about this in the post game when I asked him, that was the best I thought they had handled teams like blitzing the ball screen and really like sending pressure. That had been something that had been a bugaboo when teams really started to come after the point of attack. And they moved the ball efficiently. They found the open man. The open man knocked down the shot. Like, looked great in the first half. And in the second half, they played more drop coverage. They weren't running at the three-point line. They weren't running at early possession stuff and then trying to close out late in the possession where the open looks were coming. And Cincinnati played downhill. They, in the second half, I looked at it at one point. I want to make sure I get this right. 15 of 22 from 2 in the second half. For this team that has struggled inside the three-point line at times, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it was both like Odie, Kalu, Vic getting some dump offs or drop offs or whatever, and Landers went to the bucket one time. JD went a couple times and got fouled. Dave had a couple
hit mid range over and over and over.
So they were doing it from a couple different ways, which was really impressive.
Let's see, home stats: 1.4 points per possession for the game. Holy crap! That's a lot of points per possession.
Pretty good. That's how you go from one. They almost doubled what? So they had 54 at SMU.
Yeah.
And they outscored that by 43, if my math is correct.
I went to public school in Northern Kentucky, so not my strong suit. That's where we could use Aaron. Aaron's the math major, apparently. That's what he always tells us. So just a super efficient game. 20 assists on 35 made baskets. They won the rebounding battle, which is really hard to do when you shoot like they did. They didn't turn it over, only 8 turnovers. They were just efficient, man. Like it was, and it felt like at times, I didn't feel like the defense was great at times.
No, and only 2 turnovers in the first half. And yeah. They did that thing which, Wes has talked about. We know it drives Wes crazy, where when their shots are falling, they let up a little bit on defense because
they get into trade spots.
Yeah, just get me the ball back so I can make it. And then that's where, when the shots stop falling, that's where they get into trouble because then they can't flip on the defensive switch. And it seemed like they did a good job of, especially in the second half, I'm sure, with constant reminders. Like, hey, don't let the fact that you're making shots prevent you from keying in on defense. And you're right. I thought especially down the second half they played a little bit better defensively, but it wasn't like they completely locked them down. They played really well offensively.
In second half they held them to 34% from the floor, only 1 of 5 from 3. So they did a great job running them off the line. The only point of contention would have been layups. They were pretty good at the rim. But I mean, overall,
they're in foul trouble too.
Yeah, a lot of foul trouble. But points in the paint, like that had been one that they still give it 44 points in the paint, which 44-74 at the rim is a bit frustrating. 1.057 points per possession. So yeah, the defense was, and we joked with each other during the game, like especially early. This is going to be. It felt like right away it was going to be one where it was just going to be ding, 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 ding. Then Landers hit 2 threes, and then JD hit a couple. Landers hit another. Dave hit one, and it's hard to keep up scoring 2s when the other team is just pounding you from 3-point range. 9 in the first half. Woo! This is. Would you have believed me if I told you this is the second year in a row they have set the school record for 3-pointers made in a season?
Yeah, I guess I would have to, just because of how much they chuck them up.
Yeah, but they also in last year less so. But even like Micah shot a pretty good percentage last year. JD shot a surprising percentage for as many.
Yeah,
No, yes. Threes that he put up. But then you add Landers into the mix this year. Dan had a couple stretches. Josh had a couple stretches. Like, not shocking that in the past 2 years they've made more threes than we've ever seen. The percentages were good. Maybe not the best in program history, but right up there in terms of the number of guys that could bang a three and did so.
And yeah, I mean, and they've paid the price for it at times, right? When they've gone cold, we've seen the impact that can have. But it's an imperfect team, and when this team is at its best, it has guys who can hit threes and shoot the lights out, and when they're on, that's when this team looks really good. And the fact that they have those times when they're not, they don't necessarily always have a backup plan. That just goes to show, like, this team isn't all the way there yet. But when you look at the games where you feel like, man, they're really playing well, or they're hanging with Houston for 30 minutes, whatever it is, like, it's usually because they came out and hit shots.
It was. I think that set into me in one of the arguments Dave and I have had about this season. We were talking about one of the losses, and I was like, he said something like they only made 11 threes in that game, and I'm like, you realize how many makes in a game 11 is? Like, this fan base for the longest time is like, why are we only making 6 threes a game? We're taking 25 of them. Well, this team, like, you felt like if they didn't make 10, it was oof.
So they've had games
they shot that poorly.
At Memphis last year, Arizona this year, they've had games where they've made 15 plus and lost.
Yeah. Everybody wants the team to progress to modern basketball. You have to understand that there's some ups and downs that come with that. And those ups and downs are, some nights you're going to make 15, 17, 18 threes. And there are going to be some nights where you make 6. And then there's nights where you make 6. Oh, boy. You're going to be on the struggle bus just a little bit.
Yeah, especially when you're not, you're clearly not to where West wants this team defensively.
Sure. Landers. Efficient day from Landers. 24 points, 7 of 13 from 3, or from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 turnovers. It was such a feel-good day that I didn't want to get after him a little. But he told us 2 weeks ago, you won't see me have more than 2 turnovers in a game the rest of the way. Like, bro.
Yeah, I think he's had more than that every game since he told us. But I appreciate his confidence.
Well, I think he's trying to, at this point, and maybe if he does come back, and I tried to get it out of him. We tried to get it out of him a little bit after the game. You know what, though? He didn't shut it down.
No. He played dumb at first.
Yeah, and then he was a little sheepish.
Can you repeat the question? What's that? Huh?
What?
What did you say?
What?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
he's not one who's going to give you the coach speak answer. We've seen that.
Yeah.
And he was, what do you say? It's up in the air.
Yeah.
He was honest.
Pay me, bro. This ain't the old days. That's not a foreign. That's not a frowned upon thing anymore. As long as the money matches up,
we saw Cincy Reigns in the arena tonight.
He was.
I didn't see him carrying a briefcase or anything. I don't know if he.
I was trying to get the camera on him when they were doing the Cincy Reigns thing. P. Fox is up there, and then he walked down to the end, and he couldn't get out. He got trapped, and then his media savvy isn't quite what it used to be. Do I think Dave comes back as a grad assistant? No, I think Dave goes and makes a little money.
If he wants to, and he's kind of the hardest thing about playing overseas is you got to live overseas and be okay with that lifestyle.
I think he would be tough. He would
you might want to do that for a while.
Hey Dave, go live in, Lisbon, Spain. Okay. I think he would suck up the culture and the everything about it. Yeah, Scott Springer put him on the spot, and Landers like, what? Huh? What? He's like, hey man, this is what we're here for. We have to ask. You don't have to answer, but we have to ask. And then, of course, I followed up with the cheapie afterwards. So, are you coming back next year or what? We gotta go. And off they went. It's the one time we couldn't get him to not do the coach speak thing.
I think that was the real answer, though. I mean, he didn't say.
I do too. Yeah,
I do too. It's it hasn't decided. I'm thinking about it. There's a couple things we need to get figured out. I think that was true.
I think, like Dave, he genuinely has thoroughly enjoyed, and I think that's something, Justin, that I think that can be a huge benefit in the portal as time goes on, where these guys express, I transferred, I came here, and guess what? These people loved me.
It helps in the portal. It helps in general recruiting.
Yeah.
I know that Rayvon and Landers have talked some, and part, that could work both ways. Maybe Landers is like, I'll come back and play with this kid for a year. But
be for him what Dave was for me.
Yeah. And so I think you're right. Whether it's portal or recruiting, I think it means a lot to have guys who have options saying no, I came here. I like playing for Wes. I like playing for this city, this program. That matters.
Anything else stand out to you today? JD, solid, 3 of 7 from deep, 4 of 9 from the floor overall, 23 minutes, 12 points, did have 5 rebounds, a couple more on the offensive end that were important, I thought, as SMU was trying to make that little bit of a push. That's what an effective JD game looks like, right?
Yeah. 12 points, 5 rebounds, didn't take a bunch of shots. They obviously, he went, I think 3 for 5 from 3 in the first half. He was on the board at halftime, right? Quit letting this guy shoot threes.
Yeah.
And in the past, that would not have stopped JD from shooting threes. And so to his credit, I remember him driving and getting fouled once. He had 0 turnovers, couple assists. I think that's a sign of the growth that he's made this year, that instead of going 0 for 5 or 1 for 6 from 3 in the second half, he went 0 for 2.
Yeah, and the one was he tried to draw a foul.
Yeah.
It clearly they weren't going to give him that because he pump faked, but then he kind of waited and hesitated and you get it timed with a sundial. Why Landers and Dave are so good at that is as soon as they get you up, they're into you.
Right.
Dave got him up and then was like, 1,000.
I think JD surprised himself that he pump faked it. The left side of his brain was like, wait, I usually shoot this.
What's this? I don't understand. What's this? But I thought a good game for him. And that's what you want. Micah, pretty consistent with what we've seen from Micah. 11 points, 4 of 8 from the floor, a couple layups, downhill in the second half. Did get 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 35 minutes. Just a pretty standard Micah game.
Yeah, the thing, I asked Wes about afterward, the thing that kind of jumps out to me, and it wasn't just today, like, I think Vic's still kind of getting back into the feel of things, but the thing that just wrecked this team earlier in the season is they had 0 front court depth whatsoever.
Right.
Now you have Vic's back healthy, and he's still he was 4 for 4 from the field, played 20 minutes, grabbed 6 rebounds. Like, it wasn't a great Vic game, but it's not like
he wasn't terrible by any stretch, right?
No, he was in foul trouble was the biggest problem. But now Odie and Kalu, like, you can play them. I mean, and I wrote about this a little bit, or talked about it, like, whatever.
You right?
Sometimes at Memphis, I'm sitting right behind the bench. It's like one of the great. If there's anything to miss about AAC, it'll be going to Philly for Temple games and sitting right behind the team bench at Memphis games. And down the stretch, they're Vic or Odie. Like, that was a discussion. They end up going with Odie in crunch time. With JD at the 4, and who do we put at the 5? Because Vic was still getting back into form, and Odie was having a great game. And the fact that was even a discussion,
that trust never would have been there before Vic's injury.
And Kalu played 18 minutes. He 6 points, 4 rebounds. Like, again, you can't.
I think they got 20 and 13 combined from those 3.
And the fact that you have 3 guys, 3 true post players that you can throw in. Again, I'm not saying they're going to go win the AAC tournament, but it just gives you a little bit better. It gives you a dimension, or at least some depth that you just didn't have to start the season.
Anything else you want to get to on this game in specific? Anything that jumps out?
No.
Can they go to Dallas and win this thing?
If they play as good as they can play for 3 straight games, absolutely. The problem is, at what point have they played as good as they can play for 3 straight games?
Well, at what point really does anybody outside of the great teams play?
Well, unfortunately,
they play.
They're probably going to play one. Yeah.
Well, I think they caught a break today. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if Houston loses today, there's no chance that Cincinnati sneaks up on them in the conference tournament,
because they just want to get revenge on Memphis.
Well, not even just that, but like, how that team is. Like, you used to see it from mixed teams. Like if you lose late in the season, then you're just kind of a buzzsaw when it comes to the conference tournament. Remember the Jaren game in Memphis where Houston beat them late in the season, and Jaren was just like, look out. Like, right? Like, I'm chopping you up right now. So I think that was a bit of a blessing in disguise. I don't think Houston has been at this long enough. The only thing that maybe changes where my mindset is right now is they do have a little something to play for.
Houston.
And that's the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, because everybody around them is kind of taking a step back this week where they can jump up, I think, and potentially be the number 1 overall seed. I don't think Kelvin or Kellen, I don't think they care much about winning the conference tournament.
Probably not.
They'll do it. They'll do it, but I don't think they're going in like. No,
I'm with you. The other thing I would say that I think work against Cincinnati is I think Kelvin genuinely has a lot of respect for Wes.
He does.
And so I don't, maybe the players, Cincinnati, when's the last time they beat us, whatever. But I feel like if they go into that second round game, like, Kelvin's going to be on their ass that, like, these guys want to beat you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's certainly within the realm of possibility. The thing is, I just haven't seen it. If they do it, they will have done something that we
But
really
you know
haven't
the
seen.
fear, right?
What's that?
So this sets up as like the three teams that are the worst three teams for Cincinnati to play in terms of like how we've seen styles make fights. G-Mac, thank you for the $2. Florida is not better than California, so I will not remember that. It is 140 degrees in Florida in the summer, and it's gross. In California in the summer, it is 82 degrees and 58 degrees at night, and that is better than California or Florida will ever have to offer. Temple has always been a problem because of their length. Always. It's the 2 years, the 4 games that they played in the Wes Miller era. Houston is Houston. And then you're probably, although Tulane's beaten Memphis twice. That game could be interesting.
I was actually wondering, who do you think, what's your answer? What do you think Wes' answers would have been? Who would they have rather played, Temple or Tulane?
You beat Tulane at home. You should have beat Tulane on the road before Vic got hurt. So I would guess the answer is probably Tulane, just because Tulane defensively isn't looking to like dig in and get after you like Temple is.
Yeah.
I think it probably would have been Tulane because you feel like we can score with them, and we feel like we should be able to like defend a little bit better than they do. Temple, it's going to be in the 50s, 60s. Like they're just going to muck it up, and Damian Dunn can hang 25 on you. So if it's a game in the 50s and they've got a guy that can put 25 on you, that's a little frustrating. Also, I would like playing the team that you just lost to in heartbreaking fashion over the team you just beat. But Temple has not been a great matchup for Cincinnati.
No, and they're like the less talented version of what Memphis and Houston do to them, which is they just guard the shit out of them.
Right.
And they're not quite as good as those teams. So Cincinnati, which I think they're now 1-3. They were 0-3 heading into the season, but at least under Wes Miller. But it's not quite. They can't do it as well as Memphis and Houston do it, but they have the same game plan, and it's something Cincinnati clearly struggles with.
But they seem like they're off right now, right?
Who, Temple?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know. The thing you just worry about is in like that tournament setting is Tulane could just get crazy hot. So I don't know which you'd prefer going into it.
I think the thing that what I would prefer, at least, especially now, like, is Khalif Battle like officially not coming back? Do we know that?
I don't know that we know that, but I don't think he's been back, has he?
I can't imagine he comes back. But with Cook and Forbes, and then Cross, like they got 3 dudes that can be a major problem on the offensive end at Tulane.
Right.
Really, right now for Temple, like
it's just done.
Battle is just, if you can find a way to make him a volume guy, he's going to get his 18, 20 points. Can you make him take 15 shots to do it is the question. I don't know. Like, I don't hate their chances to win this tournament. I think outside of Houston, they're playing about as well as anyone else. Yes, like Memphis has been kind of a thorn in the side. But I think now that you saw what Memphis looked like with Lomax and Davis playing together, where it wasn't that, like, I talked a lot about this last week. I don't know if you agree or not, but the problem Cincinnati had with Memphis prior to that game over the past 2 years was length on the perimeter. That wasn't length that frustrated Cincinnati. That was quickness and speed.
Yeah.
And now maybe you have a chance to adjust and be a little bit more cognizant of that. I don't know. I don't look at anybody other than Houston. And yes, you have to go through Houston. But Houston struggled against Wichita State the other night, which I placed a fun little wager on.
Yeah.
Because Wichita State has played better, considerably better down the stretch. I was getting plus 975 money line Wichita State. So $10 to win $97.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Like, Houston's going to win, but what if something funky happens? And Wichita State took that game into like the final 10 minutes where they were back and forth.
Yeah.
Wichita State could be a little bit of a spoiler.
I don't disagree with you. I just they have won 3 straight conference games once this season, and it was ECU, SMU, South Florida. Like, it's different. It's you're playing every day. I get it. You get hot. You go on a run.
Well, the fear would be they beat Temple in a slugfest. They knock off Houston. They pull the miracle. They knock off Houston, and they get to the finals, and they're done. They can't. Yeah. Their legs are dead. The shots aren't falling. They're playing Memphis probably, or they're playing Tulane, who we saw score 114 points in the second half and overtime. The last time these two teams met, I think it was only in the 70s.
I have a hard time like having a bunch of confidence or predicting something that I just haven't seen them do yet.
No, I agree, and I'm not placing any ducats on them to go win the thing in Dallas. I just think, like, who other than Houston and Memphis are playing significantly better than Cincinnati? It's not Tulane.
Yeah, that's fair.
Tulane was stumbling.
Yeah, they just got beat by ECU, and
Temple just lost to Tulane in a game that they were down. Like, they made it interesting late, but they were down double digits most of the second half. Like, if you ask me which of like that group of teams, UCF's not playing well, I'd say Wichita State is probably playing as well as anybody but Houston and Memphis right now.
Yeah.
So the frustrating thing is you couldn't do enough to, the Tulane game, the ECU game, you should have been able to do enough to beat those two teams, or at least one of those two teams, and get the 3 seed.
3 seed, yeah.
And that way you avoid Memphis until the finals, and you hope somebody maybe does your dirty work and, gets there. But it's not happening. And if you beat Temple, the big bad wolf is standing right there. Do you consider the regular season? What is your thought on the regular season? I'm sure you'll have an article on this week. I don't want to steal your thunder, but we'll do the SVP and Rosillo. Overrated, underrated, properly rated Cincinnati Bearcats 2022-23 regular season.
I guess I was gonna go I don't know. I was thinking letter grades. I guess I would say
I love overrated, underrated, properly rated.
So in what
did they have? The regular season you thought they would have? A better regular season or a worse regular season?
They had the regular
season. All
things
considered.
They had the regular season I thought they would have.
Properly rated.
I thought, just in general, they were better than last year. They showed improvement. I think I was hoping, I think most fans were hoping a little bit more improvement. Like, they got better. I think there's reason for optimism and progress, but
there's
maybe
reason for concern that they didn't win any of the big games.
Yeah, and I just don't feel like they maximized, even if they didn't win any of the big games, but they still beat ECU and NKU and all that. Then you're like, well, they couldn't win big games, but they at least took care of business. It was like there's just those little, whether it was not winning big games or not closing out a couple games.
But that's the problem when you don't jump up and win one or two of those games you shouldn't win.
Right.
They're not good enough to have like they're not good enough to avoid a bump in the road or two.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. This isn't the team with Gary and Jake and Troy and Kyle and Jaron. Like, so you're gonna have a couple nights where you slip up.
Yeah.
That means you got to get one or two of the games that you shouldn't get, and they couldn't. Like, how different are we talking if this team's 21-10 with a win at Houston?
At Houston, yeah.
Just that one.
Yeah.
Well, forget NKU. Who cares about East? Like, they went into the number one team in the country, and they got that win.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so that's, and we'll see how they finish it, but I think that's my big takeaway is like progress, improvement, but not quite as much as you wanted to see or hoped. Yeah.
We all thought 20, 21, 22 wins somewhere. In
I was sitting right here. My prediction was 21-10, 11-7, and they're what?
So you just missed NKU, essentially.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I actually did pick them, and that wasn't obviously the only one I picked wrong. But in general,
no. But I'm saying, like, if they win the NKU game, they are 21-10 and 11-7, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Any chance Newman is available next week? No, he's not cleared for one. And if they're trying to get him a medical red shirt, they would forfeit the medical red shirt if they let him play next week.
But you reported before the game, Chad. You reported that he was going to start on Senior Day.
That is not what I reported, sir. I took a picture of him warming up and said John Newman is warming up. Was that factual or inaccurate?
It was factual. I saw it.
He was there. We laughed because we knew everybody would freak out about it.
Yes.
No,
he's not playing.
No, but you could tell he was thrilled to be in a pair of game shorts and his basketball shoes again.
Yeah. Yep.
Thrilled to be out there before a game. He's coming back. Maybe there's something
unless something gets screwed up.
Yeah.
But Wes said it last week. Like, that's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
To get him a medical red shirt, he wants to come back. So yeah, assuming there's not some bump that is out of their control, he's coming back.
And I hope he's back and he has a really freaking good season in the Big 12. Because that's another guy like Dave. I think this fan base would have embraced to the millionth degree if he had been healthy this year. And I'm not going to go as far as Aaron and say they're like a 5 seed. If John Newman played, I think they're on the bubble if John Newman played.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I really do. Like, I think they're squarely on the bubble and going to Dallas to, like, win a game or two to get into the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, he played, 10 minutes against Chaminade, and that was it. Painful. Painful to see Rob on the crutches. Did you see the Cunningham move today?
Yeah. Put it behind the back.
Put the crutches behind the back so Rob could have his Senior Day picture without the crutches.
That was nice.
That was really good. And then good for Kalu as well. He had to feel good getting that ovation that he did, that, like, the fans acknowledged, like, what we joked about.
The past couple of weeks that he's been able to get in and play and have some moments. I mean, this was a guy who was on DNPs on the bench. They were not putting him in.
He was ready to pack his car, sell everything on Craigslist, and head for the Chicago airport.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been understandable, right? If he would have done it. And so credit to him for, again, he certainly didn't have the season he wanted to have or that they wanted or needed him to have.
He scored 980 points at Old Dominion?
So it was pretty close.
You get the joke?
Yeah.
It's been, what does Mo always say? Be good or be interesting. This has been an interesting season.
For the most part. There was that stretch kind of in the start of non-conference play where,
they were bad. November was awful, where it was like, shit. But then I think starting with the second half against X, like, all of a sudden things started to feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
And they're not where they need to be. but I do think it's a season, a regular season that at least gave people the vision of where this might head.
You're moving in the right direction this season. I think it's impossible to say that. Now people can quibble with
up to the top.
People can wish they had more, or people can have whatever expectations they want, but there's no way you could look at the metrics or the eye test or anything and feel like they aren't better this year than they were last year.
Yeah. You're going to Dallas.
Yep. I believe Thursday.
What, big plans for when they beat Houston?
Just one last ride in Dickies Arena. I don't know when I'm going to get back to see the rodeo, so I had to get down there.
Are you gonna make it down to Meat Church for me?
I'm gonna do my best.
I would love to get some of the stuff that's just like in the store.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's about 15 minutes south of Dallas.
So yeah, I mean, I'm flying into DFW, but we're staying in the tournament's in Fort Worth, which, as I learned when I was there for the Cotton Bowl,
is not Dallas.
No, and neither is Arlington, and neither are any of these places. They're all like 45 minutes apart, and they're complete own cities, which is weird, but
it's hillbilly Dallas, Fort Worth. I'll see if I can. I'll map out your path. If they keep winning, you might have a little bit of free time.
Yeah,
to get down to Meat Church.
So it's on them, really.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you, Wes.
I'll let Wes know. Thank you for your time, sir. As always, it has been great to catch up. We haven't chatted on here in a while, and I know the members appreciate it. The numbers up here, where that little eye is, they're happy to have you here tonight. So thank you.
I'm happy to be here. Sorry it was at the expense of Aaron's internet and sanity, but I was glad I could pinch hit for a night.
Go do the dishes.
All right. See you, brother.
All right. That's Justin Williams. I'm Chad Brendel. This was a live nightcap. The Bearcats 97-74 winners over SMU. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on Bearcat Journal.